I know it's been a while since I've been making videos, but it's for a good reason. I've been trying to get back into the swing of things and line up some really cool people to talk to. I did find a really cool person to talk to. You guys know him as that Valorant commentator. I want to introduce to this latest episode of the Team Attack Show, SIMO. SIMO, what's going on, brother, man? How are you today?
It's a very interesting intro. That Valorant commentator. I mean, I dubbed it myself, I guess. So I mean, it is what it is. You know, it is what it is.
It is what it is. There we go. So by now, if you aren't watching Valorant, or have you been watching Valorant for a bit, you're going to realize that this man is no stranger to what's been going on in terms of casting, getting his name out there on the internet, and his voice is at this point pretty recognizable from the other established talent out there. But before we dive into your Valorant casting, I kind of want to get to know a little bit more about who SIMO is, where he came from, where he emerged from the depths from, and try and give people a little bit more insight as to why you are who you are. So could you tell me a little bit about how you got into broadcasting and what started that for you?
So I'm going to try to keep this story as short as I possibly can because there's a lot of different factors that kind of popped up. I started university in business just to try to keep my parents happy, similar to what I feel like a lot of young teens do straight out of high school. Don't know what to do, so they go into law, or they go into medicine, or they go into pharmacy, wherever they go. About 2 years in, I started playing League, and I really fell in love with the game. And if you're no stranger to League, you'll know that Riot pushes their broadcasts onto the client itself. You'll see, oh, go watch Worlds, or go watch the NALCS. You know, you'll see when you're loading up into the client before you press play, there's like a notification or some type of big spread that says go watch a tournament today. And I started watching and I was like, wow, this looks really cool. This is really dope. This is amazing. So I want to switch programs. I want to get out of business and I want to get into media. I want to get into broadcasting. And my parents, before that, they told me that I needed to at least try broadcasting first before I can just make that jump. So funny enough, I started doing broadcasting for local TV, not on air, just behind the scenes. I did it for a boomer show where they just talked about real estate. And I did it for a show called Sex at 11, which people called in and asked for sex advice. And actually, one of my first jobs in broadcasting was answering that phone and screening people to make sure that their questions were legit. But fast forward, I went to one of my first esports events. They wanted me to write an article. I was just a volunteer at the time. And I saw these two guys casting there, and I was like, holy crap, like, I want to do that. Those two guys are now like some of my closest friends, but at the time I was like, wow, those guys are so cool. They're just talking about the game that they love, and they're so excited and so energetic. And I did whatever it took to start casting, and based on that assumption, that means I've been casting League for quite a bit of time. Probably 5 years now I've been casting League. But for me, Valorant was a little bit of, I guess in a way, test at what limits I could push when it comes to social media. And so putting out my clips on agent reveals, I just wanted to cast stuff. As soon as they release it every Thursday at 1 p.m., I felt like my life depended on casting a clip just because I wanted to be out there, just because I wanted to throw myself out there. And obviously I feel like it benefited me because I got some pretty sweet gigs out of that.
Absolutely. And we're going to get into like those sweet gigs in a bit. So you casted League. You're no stranger to esports, which is great. Do you feel like Valorant kind of just showed up at the right time? Because everybody, wasn't really sure of the impact this game would have on the current esports landscape. I mean, there's so much hype and craziness around it. The game hasn't even released publicly yet, but everyone and their mom is talking about it, trying to get in on the ground floor, me included. I mean, this is why I'm doing this type of stuff. I don't know if I'm going to have another opportunity in my life to be a part of something grassroots at this level. I missed the boat with League of Legends. A lot of people did. And the broadcast talent that is there right now, it's probably going to stay that way unless people start quitting. Chat just did, so maybe there's an opening in terms of an analyst. But Valorant's exciting. So we saw that a lot of people who are watching this right now are probably going to notice that you were one of the voices in the ESPN Valorant Invitational. How did that end up being a thing?
So posting my clips regularly once those agent reveals came out. Initially, my strategy was to just post on my own Twitter and then just tag a bunch of people from the development team. But after doing that once or twice, I didn't want to bother them anymore, and respectfully so. Like I didn't want, like it was kind of like a one and done. I didn't want to keep bugging them, and I feel like I got my point across once a few of them answered. I'm like, oh, this is cool, that's dope. So then I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna post in the actual tweet itself. If I'm early enough, I'll be an early adopter. People will see it, and it works every single time. Like I get like 4K views, which on Twitter is a considerable amount. I feel like any viewership in the thousands on Twitter is actually really good viewership in terms of metrics. And then just out of nowhere, I think it was on the Jet reveal that Tyler from Fiona on Fire from ESPN quote tweeted one of my posts and was like, "This guy's been hustling. This guy's been grinding. This is super dope." And I was like freaking out. I was like, "Holy crap! This is a lot." He has a big platform. He just shouted me out in a way. He put me on blast. I thanked him, and then nothing. And then a couple days went by, a week went by. Little did I know, in the works was a Valorant Invitational that was going to be put on by ESPN. And it started the Monday. They reached out Friday and connected me and said, "We want you to do this. Are you on board? Are you willing?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, of course I am."
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
So they wanted to, and for them, from my perspective, you can sit here and be like, "Wow, that's dope. You got to cast. Like, that's so crazy. One of the biggest Valorant tournaments to date. Like, that's so amazing for you." But on the other hand, you have to think about it from the perspective of ESPN. They're taking a chance on somebody that may be a little unproven, a little kind of new to the industry. I mean, like, I'm willing to bet that a lot of people have not heard of me before, even before Valorant, like yourself included. Like, I just kind of popped out of nowhere. So they took a chance, and I hope I did a good enough job for them. Obviously, they had me come back on for a roundtable conversation. They want to work with me in the future, so I feel like I did a good job, but I'm always self-critical, so I always feel like I could be improving my casting. But nevertheless, like, it kind of was in a weird way. They asked me several days before to kind of hop on board.
Hell yeah. I mean, that's the thing about content creation and making your way in the industry, trying to just put your best foot forward and learn from the past experience. What could I do better for next time? Will these people work with me again? And clearly you're able to solidify that relationship, so big ups to you, man. I mean, that's fantastic. Having a client come back to you in that aspect, having the people like you, having all of this newfound notoriety on Twitter, wherever your clips are being posted, on ESPN, esports. How have you taken that feedback? Have you gotten good feedback from people, negative feedback from people? How are you taking in this feedback and applying it to future casts?
I think that's a really good question. During the actual ESPN Invitational itself, I had a few people, friends, family, colleagues. I was constantly talking to them about what could I improve on, what could I do better. Actually, after day one had happened, the morning of day two, I reviewed the whole VOD of my casting on day one. I was like, okay, I don't like this, what can I improve on? So actually, during the tournament itself, every morning I was reviewing the content and being like, okay, this worked, this didn't. I hyped this up too much. I need to bring it down here. I need to bring the levels down. I need to bring this up here. So even actually during the tournament itself, I was constantly in review. But in terms of public feedback, I don't feel like I really care too much. Just because even if there are going to be haters, there's people that are like, oh, this casting sucks, or you just ruined the agent reveal. Like, there's a couple of people. There's like the percentage of negativity was definitely a lot smaller in comparison to the positivity that people were saying, but it's still there and it's always going to be there. And for me, what I really valued most, especially during the invitational and moving forward, is the opinion of professionals, right? The producers I've worked with. What do you guys think? How's my pacing? How's my inflection? Because at the end of the day, if I'm better in their eyes, then I get more gigs, right? It's just kind of how my brain works. If Chad with 4 followers on Twitter says this guy sucks, I hate him, like, that doesn't really matter to me a whole lot. If Monte Cristo says this guy sucks, then I'm gonna be, well, why? Tell me, how can I improve? How can I get better? Help me be a better caster, because I already know that he is.
Right. So you're prioritizing actionable feedback. I know a lot of content creators, myself included, have had their ups and downs with kind of focusing too much on the negative and not enough on the positive, especially from the people who have any clout or any experience with what you're trying to do. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're humans. We don't feed off of negative feedback, and it beats down people more often than not. And you seem to take a handle on it very well. So that's really refreshing to hear from someone who makes content, to someone else who's trying to make their way and continues to kick ass at that. So let's look towards the future. Let's talk some hypothetical stuff. So say that Valorant Esports was established. What companies would you love to work with? Who would you like to cast alongside? You've had this one big invitational that's happened, but put all the chips on the table. We're talking like a huge final thing. Who's the one caster you'd love to have at your side, calling the action? Last round remaining, Spike's about to explode.
Well, first of all, I don't care. A lot of my friends, they call me a Riot fanboy. They'll want to play like Sea of Thieves or DBD, and I'm like, come on, just one more Valorant game, or like let's run a TFT, or can I drop a quick rank game in Runeterra? Like I'm always asking for more. Like I always want to play Riot games because I love the stories that they tell, and I love the content that they put together. And for me, that means that I want to cast for a company like that, right? Obviously, I'm like at the position that I'm currently in right now. I'd want to work with ESL, with DreamHack, with anybody that's willing to put on some sort of Valorant content. But the end goal is for Riot to be like, we like this guy, we approve of this guy, we want this guy on board, right? And by my side, love Captain Flowers. Like that guy, I think he's solid. I don't know if he's gonna make the jump, and if he doesn't, Rivington. I really respect that guy's opinion. I've been publicly talking to him, like I've been tweeting at him. I'm hopping in his stream when he's streaming. I'm asking him questions. I'm actively trying to get his opinion and see how I can improve. And he's actually given some really solid feedback publicly. He just responds to my tweet and he says, "Okay, this is what you need to work on. I saw your thing. This is what needs to be improved." So either Rivington or Captain Flowers would be a super dope combo to work with. Even a TriCast, I'm down for that too. We'll make it work.
That's great. Yeah, I actually learned a couple weeks ago that Rivington's roots are in first-person shooters. So it's crazy and makes a lot more sense that he's as adept at Valorant as he is. So I mean, seeing a cast with the both or three of you, that would be kind of nuts. And that's something I'm definitely looking forward to when things kind of start ramping up.
Yeah.
Let's talk more about Valorant as a game. There are a lot of people who are jumping the ship Overwatch. The Overwatch League is bleeding its talent right now. And there's a bunch of reasons why that might be happening, but a lot of the top tier players who are leaving are trying to make strides in Valorant. So as a first person shooter, I would like to hear your insight as it pertains to the potential of the game. What are they doing right? What are some things that Valorant can improve on as we're approaching the release of the game in a couple months or more?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about just the game in general, and I feel like I've kind of narrowed it down to like plopping Apex down right into the heart of CSGO. They've got a lot of different things that blend together within the two. From the top end, I've heard some complaints in terms of how the gameplay at least feels out. I think Summit watched a video on stream of this guy analyzing the map design. And so far, what has been heard is that every map in the game feels like Inferno. And what that means is there's a lot of rigid angles. There's not a lot of room to kind of be creative and play around with. There's not a lot of openness, right? If you think about Dust 2 as a map on CSGO, it does feel very open and very fluid, how you can transition from site to site. There are certain angles you can hide behind, but overall it's pretty, like, because it's so open, it's quite telling in some cases where someone's going to be or how you can kind of open things up. Or at least the level of boxes that are spread out that you can hide behind are low enough for you to kind of be like, okay, I don't have a lot of cover here, so I need to be strategic, I need to be careful. I think that, I'm sure that Riot is listening. I'm sure Riot is listening to all the feedback. But a lot of people forget, and I mean this as well in terms of observing. People have been not really so happy with the observing client. We're still in closed beta. Like, they released a product that is relatively close to being completed and completely fleshed out and fixed. But even with the release of Ranked, we saw a couple of issues. It wasn't out as soon as people wanted it to be. But people are always going to complain. People are always going to have their own opinions on things. I think Riot, what they're doing correctly is just being transparent, just talking to the community. Every single successful game out there have the developers, have listened to their community, and they'd be like, okay, we need to fix this. We need to make this better. At the end of the day, a streamer is going to have their opinion. A streamer is a streamer, but they want to listen to the majority, not the necessarily potential minority. I think that's at least what's going to help them in the long run make this game a great game. And with that, also releasing more agents, releasing more maps, and constantly playing around with the balance of the game.
So I've been fortunate enough to watch you cast, and so many of these other people. How do you keep a level head through each of the plays that happens? Because, you know, as you already realize, Valorant is kind of a loud game visually. There's a lot of smokes and grenades, flashbangs, wall stuns going out. How do you make sense of it all, and how do you make it make sense? You know, you're watching League of Legends, you're watching Legends of Runeterra. You know, this might be a game where, yes, you just point the shooter at the heads, click them, and they die. But with this added layer of abilities and things kind of just obscuring combat, how are you able to just parse it all and spit it out so that the viewer, the layman like me and everybody else, can understand what's going on?
Well, Rivington actually gave me a good piece of advice for that, and that's something that I'm still fine-tuning personally. But at the end of the day, less is more, right? There's one famous CSGO cast or CSGO little commentary that sticks out in my mind when I hear the word less is more. Similar, when Happy was on Envious, there was a specific kill on Inferno when they were holding down the site, as members were funneling it from Banana. Happy with one deeg, with a second, and another, and a third. Super simple language, right? You're not hearing, he has the deagle, he's used 75 damage, that's going to be another 50 that gets to the dome. Like, he's not going too in depth with what it is that he needs to be describing. And so, coming from League, that's actually helped out quite a little bit, because in League, there is a lot going on as well, right? If you've got a 5v5 team fight composition between two teams, it's going to get messy. You're going to see Sedge ults flying, you're going to see Zac flying through, LeBlanc clones everywhere. Like, it's just going to be an absolute mess. So I think the key is definitely less is more when it comes to a game like Valorant. And just identifying. So let's say, for example, Brimstone uses 3 smokes and an orbital strike. That's just control. Like, you're summarizing everything that he's using in terms of control. They're controlling the site, right? Or they've pushed them back, or they're pushing forward, right? That simple language can, if the viewer is paying attention and really cares about the commentary, okay, I understand why they're doing it at the highest level, even though it's the simplest language.
That makes a lot of sense. A bit of a more lighthearted question. The mustache seems to be popular with your look. Are you capable of growing a full beard? What's the max potential of the facial hair we're going to see as your gameplay and your casting ability evolves in this, you know, these months that are coming up to these the game's release? Like, what can we expect to see?
Well, in terms of facial hair, oh man, can't grow a full beard yet. I feel like it's coming. I keep saying that, but it's just chugging along, because you know that in theory, every time you shave, your hair is supposed to grow back even stronger,
right.
or even more, right? But the mustache, solid. Don't need to worry about that too much. Grows in full. It actually makes me feel a little itchy sometimes, so I don't like actually having it. But I get a lot of people saying like, oh, like the mustache, you know, is cool or whatever. But there's a commentator in the PUBG space called Mustache Dave, and I don't really want to infringe on his territory. Like, I don't really want to step on his toes. So I want to be a little bit careful. And hey, listen, also at the end of the day, like, if Riot comes along, it's like, we like this guy, we want this guy on board, but shave the mustache, I'm gonna have to shave.
You have to shave the mustache.
Right? Like, I gotta shave it. Right?
Oh man,
so.
would you shave the dome as well? Would you go like Captain Egghead? Like, is there evidence of SIMO without hair in the world?
There. Oh, you mean like
bald? Yeah.
Like bald? Oh man. First of all, my girlfriend would probably kill me. I've actually wanted to shave my head, and she keeps saying, "If you do it, I will as well." And that's kind of a very intense ultimatum, right?
That's an alpha threat if I've ever heard one. Holy crap.
Yeah. I personally don't mind. I'm totally chill with it because I've in the past I've run a few of those kind of like big, kind of like military races, like a Tough Mudder or a Spartan race. Like I dig that, and you have to do it with a shaved head. If you have hair, it's gonna get stuck somewhere. It's gonna ruin your performance. I'm going for time. I'm trying to compete, you know. But yeah, I will. Believe me when I say this. I want a shaved head, but I don't think I can merit my relationship in jeopardy there.
All right, that's a fair response. I respect the standing your ground there. SIMO, I think you have a super bright future ahead of you. I think that there's nothing that you're not going to be able to achieve with how hard you've been working, and it is a joy to be able to know you and watch you grow in this space. I wish you nothing but the best, and we're going to talk again when you've acquired more internet clout. So I appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk with me. Guys, if you haven't followed SIMO, you can follow him on Twitter. SIMO is taken. You need to follow this guy. He's going to be in a lot of these Valorant broadcasts that are online as soon as this virus nonsense ends. Can't wait to see the places that this man will go. Thank you very much for joining me on the show today. I hope the questions weren't too hard. You know, this is a nice way to kick things back off. Guys, if you like
thank you. Thank you for having me. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No. This is the format. This is what we're trying to figure out. It's okay. It's a super casual show. Just thanks, man. I hope you had a good time. I hope you come back.
Oh, I will. I'll be back.
Fantastic.
Don't you worry.
Guys, thank you very much for watching. Follow SIMO on Twitter. You can follow me at Twitter also at Akinola GG. That's it. The end of the show. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, leave a like on the video. I'll come interview somebody else who's really cool next time, but share the video. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace out.